This
Development
conference will
Program.
now be recorded.
So let's start the meeting. I would like to invite Dr. Pakyam Julius, Coordinator IQAC, for the welcome address.
Let it be a very good morning to everyone present. I am very happy to welcome all for this online FDP titled The Important Hallmarks of Scientific and Technical Writing. First of all, let me thank the president. I'm very happy to welcome Dr. S. Dureraj, the chairperson as well as the principal of our college. Welcome, sir. And then I welcome my fellow coordinators of IQAC, Dr. Selvaganapati and Dr. Ashwin, who have meticulously organized this function and who are conducting this function in an appreciable manner. Welcome, my fellow coordinators. And then I'm very happy to welcome the resource person of today's program. He is none other than Dr. K. Ramaswamy, librarian, M.E. Muttaya, Government Arts College for Women, Dindigul. Welcome you, sir. And then I welcome all participants all over the globe who have been taking part in this particular event. And on behalf of everyone who are directly or indirectly related themselves to this program, I extend a warm welcome to all the participants. Thank you very much.
Hello. Ashwin, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite our beloved principal, Dr. S. Dureraj, and chairperson IQAC for his presidential address.
Good morning and greetings to all. I take this opportunity to thank our President Engineer P. Kumarasamy, College Committee member Lada Kumarasamy, and Secretary Dr. V. Umayur Bahan for their guidance and constant support. On behalf of Bane Kumarasamy College, I welcome webinar speaker Dr. K. Ramaswamy, College Librarian, M.B. Muttaya Government Arts College for Women, for the huge amounts of time and energy he has dedicated for ensuring that this event is a great success. And near about 107 from all over India have registered for this webinar. So you are lucky to be with us. Hope you will get the best out of this. Scientific writing is a technical form of writing that is designed to communicate scientific information to other researchers. Depending on the specific scientific genre, a journal article, a scientific poster, or a research proposal. For example, some aspects of writing may change, such as its purpose, audience, or generation. Many aspects of scientific writings, however, vary little across these writing genres. I think some important hallmarks of the scientific and technical writings are: its primary audience is other researchers, it conscious and precious, and it must be set within the context of other published work. I feel this webinar will be an eye-opener for all of us. Let us pay heed to the speaker, Dr. K. Ramaswamy. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. So let me introduce our speaker. I am very happy to introduce Dr. K. Ramaswamy, who is the resource person of today's program. He is presently working as a college librarian of M.V. Muttaya Government Arts College for Women, Dindigul District, Tamil Nadu. From August 2016 onwards, he has more than 23 years experience as a college librarian. He has completed M.Com, MLIS, PhD. He has published more than 69 research articles in peer-reviewed journals. He has published 84 papers in the conferences and seminar proceedings. He published 3 books with ISBN number. He got Best Paper Awards in various conferences and seminars. He acted as a role of director, chairperson, and reporter general in various conferences and seminars. So we have such an eminent person with us for this online FDP program. So with this introduction, I hand over this session to our guest. Sir Ramaswamy sir, you can start.
Sure. So my screen is audible, sir. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see.
Yes, audible, sir. Okay, you can start.
The most respected principal of the college, the organizing secretaries of IQAC department, and my dear friend Selva Ganapathy sir, and all the participants of this webinar. A very, very pleasant morning to each and every one of you. To quote Albert, research is to see what everybody else has seen. Yes, sir.
Can you make full screen?
Sure, pleasure. Is it okay now, sir?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. So again, to quote Albert, research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody has thought. So I personally believe in these days, every higher education institution is trying to concentrate not only on teaching, learning, and extension, but extensively on research too. Because research has become an important criteria for any organization when they come to any kind of national or international ranking. You take NAAC or NIRF or any such kind of international assessments, research is a very important component to be taken care by any higher education institution. And the research is being done by the faculty members of our research scholars of the higher education institutions may fall into many categories. They may be research supervisors guiding the scholars, and thereby they produce papers, they do some research, or they themselves are doing either PhD or postdoctoral fellowship, or they are guiding their MPhil scholars or PG students, or they may be getting some kind of short-term or long-term or mini major projects from various funding agencies, or out of one's own interest, a particular faculty may be endeavoring into some kind of research. So we all do some kind of research, and what is the output of all these research works? See, we would like to publish our research in the form of journal articles, or conference papers, or books, or book chapters, e-books. But if you analyze the total research output, a majority of the research scholars, the researchers, they love to prepare and publish their research output in the form of journal articles. A couple of years before, maybe half a century before, the one who has published more number of papers was considered to be the most influential author. But these days, the trend has changed. We are not bothered about how many papers a particular person has published, but we want to see how quality papers are there. Whether those papers are published in Web of Science indexed journals, or Scopus index journals, or UGC CARE list journals, or they are published in the journals where or which has got the high impact factor, a journal which has got more citations. Are you publishing papers in those kinds of journals? And when you want to publish your papers in such kind of reputed the journals which have got high impact factor, naturally the publishers and editors of those journals will expect an article of high quality content from the authors. So they expect a very standard articles with very good content. Fine. And when you talk about the hallmarks, I should see only two sides of the hallmark of any scientific writing. Today's session, I like to confine my presentation only to the research papers, journal articles, and among very many hallmarks, I like to focus on two important hallmarks for any research paper. One is the structure, the format in which the paper is to be prepared by you. And secondly, what are the various components of a research paper and what are the contents you are going to include in those structure. So one is a structure and another is the content what you have to fit in into all those specific blocks of formats. If you are taking care of both the external structure and the internal content and the way you have to conduct your research, I'm sure you will get a very good hallmark for your research publication. You know, hallmark is standard for judging the quality of gold ornaments or gold things. In the same way, if you have structured your research output in the specific desired format and your contents are unique, your contents are new, the way you have presented your contents, the contents actual way of conducting research and the way of your presentation, if these are all good, definitely you will also get higher rate of hallmarks for your research paper also. So let me get into the general structure of a research paper. The first thing is title. It's a very, very important thing because this is the first thing a researcher, a user reads when they want to read your paper. The title should not be very lengthy and it should not be very short also. And be sure that the title is grammatically correct and see that you are using only those words which will exactly reflect what you have done in your research paper. And please try to avoid the phrases like a study of, research on, report on, all these kind of things. And to the extent possible, avoid the abbreviations and formula in the title. And the title should be very specific and it can range from 5 to 10, maybe maximum 15 words. And apart from title, sometimes you have to give a running title for your research paper. Some publishers even ask for that. You can see here, this is a title, integrating the WPIM process, a long title. And when this is presented to the journal, they ask for a running title too, which you can see here, integrating the WPIM process model with the OAIS information packages. So you should be able to give exact title and a running title for your research paper. And how the title can be formed? There are 4 different methods. One is, your title can be simply a descriptive title. It tells what you're going to do. For example, I'm doing a research on investigation on the role of today's webinar and the research perceptions of the faculty members of Pioneer Kumarasamy College. So this is a descriptive title because the title tells what I am going to do in my research today. The title can be declarative in the sense the title itself tells the results of my research study. For example, the title says that the webinars improve the research perceptions of the faculty members. Title tells the results. The title can be interrogative also. So you can ask a question whether these academic webinars help in improving the research performance of the faculty members. A question mark. You can have titles in interrogative form also. Your title can be a combination of all these things. A title, a question, do academic webinars shape the research agenda, colon, an empirical investigation. In all these ways, you can frame your title. So title is very, very important. Then comes out the title, you should worry about the author's names and affiliations. See that you're writing the full name of the authors, the forename, the middle name, the surname, the exact name you should write, and the names are to be written in all the papers in the same manner. So you're not supposed to have different methods of writing your name in different papers. And without any spelling mistake, the author's name to be placed. Not only that, apart from author's name, you need to give author's affiliation address, maybe his designation, the department where he is working, and the institute where you're working, along with the address, maybe with the email ID or with his WhatsApp number, so that he can be contacted. And when you are writing the author's name, especially when more than one author is there, you have to make use of either star marks or number 1, 2, 3 to differentiate which author belongs to which department, from which institute has come from, or who is the corresponding author. To inform all these, you can do some kind of symbols for star marks. For example, here is a journal article, name of the title, the title of the journal article, and you can see there are 3 authors. You can see number 1, 2, 3 are placed just before the name of the author, and you can see down 1 stands for research scholar, 2 is a senior research fellow, and third is the head of the department. All belong to 2 different institutions. And if you come to this particular title, you can see here 2 authors are there, and here instead of putting a number at the beginning of the names of authors, here they have given the number at the end of the author's name. Fine. And sometimes you can see here, instead of numbers, they use star marks. 1 star mark first author, 2 star marks, 3 star marks to denote which institution they all belong to. Fine. And here you see it's an international journal, wherein no numbers, no star marks, just plainly name of the author followed by the affiliation address. So what I want to say is that each and every journal has got a different method of presenting authors' names and affiliations, and it is up to you. Before you start publishing a paper in a particular journal, you should go through what are the guidelines given for paper publication in that particular journal. What is the structure of the journal paper, and what is the way you have to render the author's names, and accordingly you can follow. Fine. Then I was talking something about a corresponding author. In many cases, if 3 or 4 are combining together and preparing a journal article, there will be a particular person who will be designated as the corresponding author. Because whenever the publisher or editor wants to clarify something, or they give some commands for improvement, they always contact the corresponding author. The corresponding author is having the moral responsibility of keeping in touch with all authors, and he has to update all other authors with regard to the publication status of the journal article. And what about the address? Whether you should write the permanent address or present address. The thumb rule is that in the main affiliation, just below the title of the article, you have to mention the address where you have actually carried out the research work. Fine. If you have moved from the place where you actually did your research work, and if you're working in some other place, then the present address or the permanent address can be given as a footnote in the first page of your research article. Fine. Can you see here the corresponding article author? It's given at the bottom of the journal article. Can you see here? They have given star mark. It says their author to whom correspondence should be addressed. Fine. A confusion comes here. Sir, we 4 are there. In what order we have to write all the 4 authors? Naturally, the one who has contributed the maximum should be the first person. And naturally, the head, the group leader, the research leader, maybe the last one. And of course, if there are 4 authors have to sit together, and you have to decide whose name has to come first, whose name has to come second. You have to mutually talk to each other and you have to finalize. That's how you have to write about the authors. Then about the abstract. So abstract is very the important component of any research paper, because abstract is having the ability of standing alone. So when you go to a database, you may not be able to access the full text of the whole research paper, but almost all the database vendors, they provide you the title, author's affiliation, abstract, and keywords of almost all the research papers. So abstract is having the capacity of standing alone. So abstract should be prepared in a very factual manner, in a very concise manner, and we should tell what is the purpose of your research and what are the findings, and not only findings, and what are the results of your research paper, and try to avoid using citations or abbreviations or formula as far as possible in abstract. Not only that, you know very well, abstract is the most read part of any research paper. Many a time we don't have time, or we don't go to the whole content of a research paper. We just read the abstract. If it is not sufficient, or if we decide that this article is worth reading, or I should read the entire paper, then I will go and read the entire paper. So abstract is very, very important. That will set a context for the person to decide whether I have to read the whole paper or not. Fine. So abstract is very, very important. And what are the two different types of abstracts? So one is the unstructured abstract. That means you write a paragraph and you talk about the purpose of study, the method you follow, what are the findings and conclusions. Fine. A single paragraph. It has got all of these four components. It is a unstructured abstract. And when it comes to structured abstract, the same information, four components, you are going to place under different headings. You're going to have subheadings for giving your abstract. For example, here is an abstract. It has got purpose, methodology, findings, future implications, social implications. So in this way, you can structure abstract in these headings. Fine. And after abstract, the thing what you have to concentrate is on keywords. Why? Because the keywords what you are going to assign to a particular research paper will be indexed by all the search engines, and whenever somebody come and key in those keywords to search for some research papers, the search engine will retrieve your paper and give it to them. So keywords are very important. You can have 4 to 6 keywords for your research paper, and try to avoid plurals, and see that the keywords are there in your research paper. You can see here at the bottom of the abstract you have got keywords. Fine. Then comes, once these things are over, how to write about the title, author's affiliation, abstract and keywords. Let us go to the main part of the research paper. So you always start the research paper with an introduction. People say introduction should have a minimum of 3 components. One is, for example, if you're talking about, if you're researching a paper on image processing or machine learning, first of all, you should give an introduction to the topic. You should give a background literature to the concept which is being researched by you. And secondly, you should tell exactly what is the research gap available in that particular field. And thirdly, more importantly, how your research is going to contribute to the research gap, how your research is going to address the gap which you found. So these 3 components are must for the introduction part. Then comes a review of literature or literature survey, wherein you try to explore the previous studies, the researchers conducted by your forefathers, the 4 previous researchers on the same or related areas. What for? Why should we do review of literature? One is to get a background information, or to find out the method, what method was followed by the previous researcher, what is the tool he used, what are the findings he had, what are the suggestions he has got for his research paper. And especially only when you go through a review, you will understand how a particular subject is growing. The progression of research in a particular field can be understood properly when you do a meticulous review of literature. Fine. So once you have collected review of literature, how you have to present it? There are 2 different ways. So you can see here, after giving a point here, counterparts display greater self-assessment accuracy. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 authors have given the same findings. So you can collate the findings of all the authors on a particular issue. Or sometimes you can say this way also: first author, what he has told, follow second author, what is told, what about the third author, what about the fourth author. Individually you can also do it. Fine. Individually, one by one, you can explain one by one all the review of literature. Fine. But if you send a paper to a foreign research journals, normally they don't accept such kind of review where you have listed all the reviews one by one. They don't encourage such kind of practice. They normally ask the researchers to find out what is the focal point and what is the finding about which many researchers have found out. For example, there is a finding which states that researchers spend a lot of time on internet to collect the information. So this finding was found out by many researchers, maybe 10, 12. You collect all the 12 names and bring them together. So instead of arranging the reviews one by one according to the article, you have to arrange the reviews under some subheadings, under some concepts. So conceptual presentation of reviews are expected in most of the research papers. Then comes methodology section, where you write about the statement of the problem. You're going to say what is the problem you are going to explore in your research paper, and what are the research questions that you are going to address. Okay, some people say that both research questions and objectives are same, and some say that they are different. I personally believe that research questions are broader objectives. Okay, only to find answers for those research questions you frame objectives. So objectives usually maybe 5 to 10 in numbers. Research questions may be 2 to 3, very broader in nature. And based on these objectives, you frame hypotheses for your research work. Whatever important words, atypical words you use for your research, the key words are to be explained. And apart from that, if you adopted any theory or any model as a base for your research work, then you should give an explanation about the model or theory what you used. For example, I am undertaking a study on the use of ICT among the faculty members of Pioneer Kumarasamy College. For this particular study, I can make use of a model called Technology Acceptance Model. I can take this model as a base, and based on this model, I can construct my questionnaire and my study. If at all you have used any such kind of model or theory, and that is to be explained in the methodology section. Apart from that, especially if you take care of social studies, we have to concentrate on 4 important things under methodology. We talk about participants, design, measures, and procedures. Participants, what is my sample? How many participants I am going to include for my present study? What about the design? Whether I have descriptive research design or experimental, quasi-experimental, or what is the kind of research design I have for my research work? And what about the measures? Measures means what is the data collection instrument you are going to use? Whether you have a questionnaire or a schedule or observation, whatever it may be, or online survey, what is the measure? Then what is the procedure you follow in collecting data from the sample? So these things are to be explained very clearly in the method section, because the people, those who happen to read your paper, should be able to reproduce the same result somewhere else. Replication should be made possible. So I told you hypothesis is a must. You can have a hypothesis. And a hypothesis is nothing but what you are going to expect to happen in your research work. It is a tentative assumption. And hypotheses are to be stated in single statements. Don't combine many parameters into a single hypothesis. Fine. And nowadays, apart from these components, the method section has got one more item called ethical considerations. We talk about research ethics, and nowadays journal editors, especially in sciences, they expect the author to have a statement called ethical consideration. They want you to include whether you got the approval of the ethical committee of your college or your university, whether you have informed the respondents about the nature of the study, the consequences of the study, whether you got informed consent from them. So they want to have whether your research is free from ethical violations. So you should have a statement about ethical considerations too in your research paper. Once these things are over, let us go to the findings or the results. So this is a very core area of your research paper, where you are going to explain, maybe with the help of tables, the figures and interpretations, all those things and all, how the objectives what you set for your research work has been materialized. what are the results of, what are the responses you got for the research questions, what you framed in the beginning of your research study. There are two approaches. Sometimes you got two different sections called findings and discussions, wherein in the findings section only the results are given and the discussion section is meant for interpreting the results. In some cases, there are people those who combine both the things, findings and the discussion, both they have under single heading. It all depends on your wish or the content format prescribed by the journal concerned. So you can make use of tables and figures, especially when you feel that you got lot of data. You may not be able to express all the data in the form of words. So you can make use of tables and figures, not only to summarize the results of your study, but also to show the trend. What is the trend of a particular data? What is the number of hours spent by users on internet over a period of time? If you want to show a trend line, it's always better to have a graph rather than explaining in a paragraph. As far as tables are concerned, please understand, tables are to be presented as text, fine, not as images, so that the table would be editable by the publishers. And you have to see that the tables are to be placed either in the place where you are explaining that particular concept, or if you please, many a time authors, they take all the tables and all the tables are addressed, listed at the end of the article as appendices. But see that whenever you are having the table in the body of the research paper, all the tables should be numbered consecutively, they have to be numbered. And there's a rule which says that when you're preparing a table, see that don't make use of vertical rules. For example, if you see this table, a table which was prepared in APA format, American Psychological Association format, you can see table number is in the first line. It is a normal font. The title of the table is in italics, and the tables don't have any kind of vertical lines. And you can see all the column headings are centered, and the first column is left aligned, and all the columns are center aligned. So these are a few rules you can follow when you decide to follow a particular pattern for preparing your tables. And this is another table in APA style. Let's come to the figures. Whenever you want to have some graphs, some charts, bar chart, stacked bar chart, whatever it may be, see that you are going to make use of figures or charts only when you feel that they will help you to convey the information, more information in lesser space. And see that every figure should have a caption, not inside the picture but outside the picture. And see that the graph or a chart is prepared in such a manner that it is not having so much of text, and whatever text you have, the text should be big size enough so that the people, those who happen to see a figure, will be able to exactly understand what you have given in the figures. Try to avoid maximum text. Instead, you can use symbols and abbreviations. So here is a slide. The only one problem with this chart is that you can see here, you see the y-axis and x-axis. We could see big statements are given. Instead of giving such long statements, you can cut short it. You can make it look simple and smaller in size. Otherwise, this chart is okay. Then what about the abbreviations you use? See that if you are using only standard abbreviations or your field, there's no need for giving expansions of all the abbreviations. But if you use some uncommon abbreviations, see that you are explaining it, you are giving the full form of that particular abbreviation, the first page where it occurs. And see that there is a consistency in the presentation of abbreviations. Every time same abbreviation should not be getting different shapes in different places. You have to render the abbreviation the same style, the same way throughout your research paper. Then, apart from the findings, we should have a section called discussion. Discussion section is a very, very important section where we are going to explain and we are going to interpret the results what we have got for your research paper. It's not sufficient just to go and tell that these are the findings of my research paper. I should tell to what extent my research results have appeared in a way which is similar to others researchers, which is in contrast with the other researchers. Whether my research has accepted the hypothesis what I have framed. If it is accepted, why is it so? If it's not accepted, why is it so? Why my results have turned up this way? So I should give explanation for all these things in the discussion section. Basically, we talk about 5 important things in the discussion section. One is we should say whether the hypothesis what you framed for your research what, whether it is accepted or it's not accepted. And secondly, if it is accepted or not accepted, or the results are a different way, you should explain why results are different. What would be the contributing factors for such results? Maybe you can say that because of the sampling strategy what you adopted, or maybe because of the design you had, or maybe because of the procedures of your current study. So these aspects also may have an impact on the results. You can say that if I had taken more samples, my results might have been better. Or you can say that instead of descriptive study, if I had undertaken explorative study, my results may be much more deeper. So you can give the interpretation for the results what you got. And third, you can say how could the study be improved? You can give a suggestion. So I have done something. Instead of doing this, if you have done the same thing in a different manner, maybe the future researchers will be more beneficial. You can say that I have taken a sample of only these 20 participants. The next researchers may take more sample size. Our design may be changed. Or even people say that, so I asked the wrong question, a question which is a leading question. For example, instead of asking a person to answer a question, for example, a person has watched a movie, a horror movie or violent movie, he is out of the cinema theater. Instead of asking him a question like this, do you feel more aggressive after watching that video clip or that movie? Instead of asking this kind of question, you should ask, how do you feel after watching this particular movie? So we should not give any lead to the respondents. The respondents have to spontaneously, they should answer. So what are the ways by which your present research study may be improved upon? We can discuss about those in the discussion section. And apart from that, 2 more important things. One is what is the future direction of your research? See, you know what was done previously in your research, what you have done, now how this research can be taken forward by future researchers. What are the guidelines for the future researchers? And what about the outcome of your study? Whether your study is giving any solution, any suggestion, any course of expected work to be done in future. If it is so, all these things can be explained in the discussion section. Here you can see a discussion section where the researcher who talks about ICT skills, he is comparing his research results with that of 3 more others. Number 4, number 35, number 36, 3 are there. Fine. These 3 persons research articles are either in line with your findings, or these 3 research papers findings are against the findings of yours. So you can discuss. You can see here each and every finding of the researchers are compared and contrasted with many other research papers. And this is how your discussion section should look like. Okay, fine. So these are the ways how the researcher is contrasting or compiling his research. In this case, the researcher has combined both the findings and discussing part of his research work under the single heading. That's why you can see the table interpretation followed by the discussion section. Fine. As I told you, you need to talk about the strength of your paper, and you need to talk about the limitations of your paper too. See, let us not wait for somebody else, some editors, some peer reviewers. Instead of they coming to you and saying that these are the mistakes you are committed in paper, you yourself, maybe after conducting study, you yourself can decide what are the limitations of my study, what are the places where I have done some kind of mistake, something like that. So those things and all you can say by yourself, not only the limitations, the strength of your study. Maybe you can say that I have collected maximum number of samples. My study has 4,000, 6,000 samples, highest number of respondents. Or you can say that my study has employed some statistical tools which are not applied by anybody. Or I have found out a new method of analyzing my data which was not done by anybody. What are the strength of my paper? You can focus upon, you can showcase all those plus points or strength of a paper. And here you can see a researcher is given study limitations of his paper. He says that the limitations of my paper are I have hit a low response rate and dependence on self-reporting without a knowledge test. He says that this is a test on computer literacy skills of respondents. He says that I just asked the respondents to give their rating of their skills, but actually I have not gone and tested their actual skills. The whole research is based on self-reporting skills, not the tested skills. It's a limitation of my study. So as a researcher, you can always find out the limitations of your paper. Then comes the conclusion where you have to say specifically whether to what extent you are able to achieve the results of your study, your objectives are fulfilled, and how these results can be taken forward. And after the conclusion, there is a section called acknowledgements where you need to acknowledge the people, those who helped you, maybe in the data collection process, or maybe in doing some statistical analysis, and maybe in proofreading your article. Whoever helped you, you can acknowledge them. The acknowledgement should be placed after the conclusion. You are thanking the people for many reasons. You can see example here where the researcher is acknowledging the help of somebody who helped him to translate the questionnaire into the language of the respondents. So that we can thank the people for any reasons. Then comes references, very important thing. When you talk about references, two things are, one is in-text citation and another is list of references. Two things are there. In-text citation is nothing but the author's name and year, what you mentioned in the body of the literature. Maybe when you are introducing your topic or in the review chapter, in the review portion of your research paper, you say that Ramasamy 1975 invented, found that Selva Ganapathy 2018 invented something. So when you are quoting somebody in the body of your research paper, that is known as in-text citation or textual citations. And at the end of the paper, after the conclusion and acknowledgement, you give a list of all the references, whatever you have used as in-text citation in the body of text. So two things are there. You can see here, the left part of this particular slide, you can have in-text citation. For example, 94.3% of respondents could use a computer, number 11. It means that here they followed a system of numbering. Just come down, they say Aduda 2001 or DALI 2003. This is an author year system. You follow any one method of writing in-text citations. And for all these in-text citations, at the end of the paper, you should have a list of references. How these list of references that you prepare, you have to follow a particular standard, a particular reference management style. It can be American Psychological Association APA style, or MLA style, or Chicago style, or IEEE style, or Nature style, or Vancouver style. You follow any one standard. The standard, either the standard which is prescribed by the journal for itself, or international standard which is being followed by a journal. Sometimes the journals will have their own referencing style. So if you want to publish a paper in that particular journal, you need to go through the entire guidelines to understand how you have to prepare reference for a journal article, for a book chapter, for a video, for a blog post. You should learn. Fine. So, but whatever may be the case, you should have the references prepared in a particular standard. Fine. Either manually, lot of tools are there, like something like Zotero is there, Mendeley is there, EndNote is there, many softwares are there. Even you can make use of MS Word for preparing the references. Use some tools so that you can save time in preparing references. Fine. And what about the science researchers? I would like to give a very thin line of difference in the preparation of research papers in respect of science researchers, because the method section of science research papers, maybe physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, computer science, they have got two different purposes. The method section is should be prepared in such a way that the people, those who happen to read your method section, will be able to replicate whatever research you have done. After reading your method section, even they should be able to do the same research in their lab or in their home. They should be able to replicate. Why should they replicate? Either to test it or they want to further your research. This is one reason. Another reason, when you are sending a paper for publication, the researchers, the publishers, they may want to replicate your study so that they want to evaluate whether the findings what you have got in your experimental research is the same result what they also get. So they want to evaluate your results. So your method section should be very, very comprehensive. And what about the quantum of details you should present in the method section? See, if you are using a very, very popular method known by almost everybody in the research area, then you can give a very, very minimal record information about the method. If you are using a method which is not very popular, then you should explain the method. If it is a new method which is developed by you, then you should give a complete description of your method. And apart from that, if you are making use of any instrument, any machine for the particular purpose of data analysis, then you should mention the brand name or machine number, okay, so that the editors will get a confidence of the information what you have included in your research analysis. Then appendices, you can have as many appendices, maybe A1, A2, B1, B2, you can have as many appendices. Then, especially in science, they ask for funding information. If at all you have taken any fund from any research institution, maybe CSIR or DST or any other institution, then it is a must that you should give a funding statement as a part of your research paper. If you get a fund from a particular institution, you should name the institution. And if you have not received any fund from any institution, then you can give a note that this research did not receive any kind of fund from any kind of institution. You can see here in a particular journal, before the reference, they have accepted that they have received some financial support from a particular university for conducting the research work. So funding information is a must in the case of science researchers. And it's very important to follow international standards when it comes to physics, chemistry, mathematics and all. If you have international system of units, numbers, and if at all you are having your quantities in some other units, then you should give the equivalent of the same units in international system of units. For example, if you take chemistry people, you are supposed to use the nomenclature available in IUPAC, International Union of Physics and Applied Chemistry. Whatever nomenclature they have followed, you have to follow that kind of international standard in giving nomenclatures in chemistry. So you have to follow international standards in respect of units and the nomenclatures. And especially when you're submitting mathematical formula in your research paper, see that these mathematical equations are submitted as editable text and not as images. And try to, if an equation is very small, instead of using a horizontal line, and make use of a slash symbol. And as you know, by default in mathematics, variables are to be presented in italics. And suppose in your research paper, if you're having 3 or 4 equations, then you can number all the equations 1, 2, 3, so you can number the equations. For example, some publishers like LSP Science Director, they have another additional option. You can give a video, okay, to support your research work. You can submit video files of what you have done, maybe the way you collect the data or the step-by-step outcome of your research work. You can have a video, you can submit your video also. They say this is a file size, you can prepare your video, you can send it. So the audience, those who are reading your e-paper, those who have e-journal article, those who are reading, they will be able to get a link to your video and they will be able to see a video also. Even that is permitted in some science journals. And some publishers, even they accept the supplementary material, something like a PPT file or maybe an image file, maybe a Word file, maybe an Excel file where you worked out all the calculations, the proper caption for describing each and every supplementary file. You can upload as many supplementary files as possible. Even that is being permitted. Gone are the days when the research paper means only 5 to 6 pages sufficient. Nowadays things are not like that. The researchers, the publishers, things are becoming a very different shape, and they ask for many more details apart from a 6 to 7 page research paper. Now recently, many research journals, science journal, they started asking the researchers to submit their research data along with their research paper. You cannot just submit a 6 to 10 pages research paper. You should give a supporting research data also. What you observed, what you experimented, what is software code you use, what is the model, what is the algorithm, what is the protocol, what is the methods. All those things, research data you have to submit. And you will not believe, there are some agencies, there are some research data repositories, they will be taking your research data and they will make it available in their research repositories, and they will give you a link, and that link you have to submit it to the journal where you are planning to submit your research paper. Fine. You might have heard about this Mendeley data and open access research data. You yourself can go to Mendeley, you can open an account, you can deposit your research data for which there will be a link. So what you can do is that you can hand out this link to the researcher or the publisher editor, who will give a link to your research data in your e-version of your research paper. Even that is getting popular these days. And last, we have come to the last few slides of our presentation. Sometimes some journal they ask for even audio slides. What is an audio slide? The author is asked by the publisher to give a talk about his research paper. The author is explaining the context, the way he did his research, the findings. The author is expressing the whole things. This audio is recorded, and these audio slides are attached as a part of your research paper. And sometimes the mathematical researchers, when you're working with MATLAB software, even some researchers, they facilitate that your figure which was prepared in MATLAB can be displayed as such in your research paper online. And some people, some publishers, they ask you to give the interactive plot, a graph which is moving, an animated graph. You can present even animated graph, which some publishers are ready to publish. So these are the things that add cap to the already existing content of your research paper. And so far I have been talking about the structure of the research paper and the layout of research papers. But when it comes to the whole content of your research paper, the very important hallmark what you should have is your paper should be away from the plague of plagiarism. The term plagiarism is killing the very core of research of many different fields. So what is this plagiarism? It's very simple. You borrow the ideas, concepts, methods, definitions, theories of others, and you are using all those methods, concepts, theories in your research paper as if they are yours. Without thanking them, without acknowledging them, you are using all the materials what you have taken from others in your research paper as if they are your own methods, your own definitions, and your own ideas. That is what the whole concept of plagiarism is. So the plagiarism should be avoided, and you should take up a very, very genuine research. You should plan your research well in advance. You should do the research very scrupulously and see that, there's nothing wrong in going through what others have done. We have to, that is a research. Your research is going to be not done in an island. Your research should be always in connection with the previous researchers. So you have to refer to old materials. You should refer to previous researchers. But when you are borrowing ideas from others and you are including those ideas in your introductory part, or maybe in your reference section, or in your review section, or in your discussion section, wherever you're incorporating others' ideas, others' findings, others' methods, one thing is you should be either put the things in quotations. If you have received the entire thing, for example, what is artificial intelligence? You can take a definition from somebody. The same definition you want to include as a part of your paper. Then you can give the entire quotation within the quotes. Or you've got some findings from others. How to present it? You don't want to give it as such. So you read what others have found out, you understand it, and you try to present it in your own words, your own style, your own language. We say it's a paraphrasing. You have to paraphrase what others have done, and you can include the paraphrase methods with the proper attribution. What is attribution? You should say that I have taken this content from so and so. Whether you are using as a quotation or you're paraphrasing, you should always acknowledge. And that's the best way of getting rid of plagiarism. The last but one, we have to be very, very careful with these two hallmarks. One is research ethics and another is publishing ethics. There are some ethics in your research. Whenever you do your research, you should see that you have followed all the research ethics scrupulously. So what is research ethics? Doing a genuine research, do a genuine data collection, do a genuine observation, not doing any kind of data falsification, data fabrication, or they say salami slicing of articles, cut and copy and paste. So Control A, Control C, and Control V. The whole research is over. Such kind of ethics which is against research and publishing ethics should be avoided. Research ethics, publishing ethics. For example, same paper you are publishing in 2 research journals. That is against the publishing ethics. For example, we two are friends, myself and Mr. X are friends. What I say, Bhaiya, I am publishing a paper this time. I will add your name as an author. And next time, when you publish a paper, you add my name as an author. So that kind of things are all against the research and publishing ethics. So we should take up a novel idea, and you should see that to what extent our research is going to contribute to the science, contribute to the knowledge of the particular field. To what extent my research is going to progress the knowledge of the particular field, or to what extent my research is going to fulfill the problem faced by either a group of people or the population as such. You should see all these things, and you should do the research within the confined walls of the research ethics, publishing ethics, without any plagiarism, and you have to structure your research paper in the format which is prescribed. If you're able to do all these things, I'm sure, whether it is science paper or social science paper, you have to write the draft first time and repeat it again, read it again, and read 3 or 4, 5 times. Give to your friends, give to the editors, give to the publishers, give to your enemies. Ask them to go through it, ask them to the comments. You listen to their comments very carefully, and you leave the research paper, assess for some time, maybe a week. Again, you take your paper and go through that. You refine your paper as much possible. Then you send the paper to the good journal. That's very, very important. Publishing article in a good journal, very important. See, we have taken this much pain in preparing a wonderful article following a particular structure, pattern, no plagiarism, research ethics, but all things are done. The article is ready, journal is ready. Now you should know how to find out the right journal, in which journal I have to publish my research paper. Whether I'm going to go for Web of Science Index or UGC CAR listed, all those things. There are many different ways of finding out in which journal I need to publish my paper. Please go to Web of Science Master of Journalist, or you can go to Elsevier Journal Finder, or you go to SageBob. They help you to find out in which journal you can publish a paper. You can go to SciMago Journal Ranking, where they have country-wise ranking, subject-wise ranking of all the journals. Around 32,000 journals are listed over there. You can go and find out the top most journals of your research area. See, you've done a research in a particular field, maybe on quantum chemistry. You find out the top most journals in quantum chemistry. Go to these sources, find out the good journal, and submit your research paper. Kindly never ever fall to the predatory journals. There are predatory journals. That means you send the paper today, and within 2 days, or within an hour, within 24 hours, you get acceptance. The paper will be published within a period of 2 days on making payments. So kindly try to avoid such kind of predatory journals. Always go for the journals which are indexed, which are having a high impact factor. If you're taking all these things into consideration and prepare and publish your research papers, I'm sure your research paper will get a very good impact, and it will have very good impression in the minds of the researchers of a particular field. And that's the end of my presentation, and the forum is open, and organizers can ask the participants to post their questions in the chat box, please.
Thank you for
Ashwin,
the
sir.
informative presentation. You can find some questions in the chat,
Sure, sir. I will go through the chat box.
or otherwise I can tell. Did you find?
Let me go through the chat box.
Okay, sir. So, one
I
more
think,
request. Can you turn on your webcam?
How to calculate the Hutch index? See, Hutch index calculation is a bit difficult for you. You cannot calculate Hutch index by yourself. You should depend on some sources. Either you go to Web of Science or go to Scopus, or for our sake, you can go to Google Scholar. These are the ways to go and see your Hutch index. And see, Hutch index is based on two things. One is how many articles you have published and how many citations each of the article has got. If you're having these two components, you can calculate your Hutch index. But the problem is that it is very difficult to find out by yourself how many citations each of your paper has got. For that, you have to depend on some external agencies. See, if you're having both the list of papers and list of citations, then you can find out Hutch index. For example, Nandira Banu Kamal is asked the question. For example, if your Hutch index is 3, it means that 3 of your articles are cited at least 3 times. That means if your Hutch index is 3, it means that 3 of your articles are at least cited 3 times each. That is the meaning of Hutch index. Fine. And how to calculate citation? You cannot calculate because you publish a paper. Whoever citing a paper, in the citation information, you have to gather from citation databases. You should depend on either the Web of Science or Scopus or Engineering Village or EBSCO. You have to depend on some kind of databases to know about citations. And the same participant asked about impact factor. See, impact factor is calculated for the journals. Individuals, we calculate Hutch index, and impact factor is calculated for the journals. It depends on 2 items: number of articles published in that particular journal over a period of time, and the number of citations those articles receive over a period of time. Based on these 2 concepts, they calculate the impact factor. Sir, any other question you can even ask?
So there are 2 more questions.
2 more, sir. Let me just see.
I think one. How many CARE listed Tamil language journals?
I think language journals are very less, but they are increasing it. Okay. If you go to UGC CARE list, we got 2 different parts of 2 different groups of journals in UGC CARE list. The first group consists of the journals what are already indexed in Web of Science and Scopus. So all the journals, irrespective of the country, subject, language, if it is indexed in Web of Science, if it is indexed in Scopus, it is automatically included in UGC CARE list. So you can find out. If you go to UGC CARE list, you have to create your account, go inside. You can go inside and find out a list to Web of Science journals, a list to Scopus journals. You can find out how many regional language journals are there. Apart from that, UGC, apart from the journals included in Web of Science and Scopus, UGC has prepared yet another list of journals. There, I think we have got very less number of journals for regional languages, and maybe in the days to come they may increase. Any other question? We can let it open to the audience.
So I think there is no more questions. We can conclude the session. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ramaswamy, sir.
So, sir, 1 minute. If no other question is there, then I should thank the organizers for having given me this wonderful opportunity of talking to you all on this important topic. Thank you, participants, for your interactive question. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your informative session. So let me invite Dr. Selva Ganapathy, librarian and organizing secretary, additional coordinator, IQC, for vote of thanks.
Good morning to all. I am very happy to propose vote of thanks. First, I would like to thank our college management for rendering permission to organize this faculty development program. My sincere thanks are also to Dr. S. Duraraj sir the principal of the college, for his valuable advices rendered for the success of this FDB. Thank you, sir. I would like to convey my sincere thanks to Dr. J. Bhakyam Julius, sir, coordinator IQAC, for his moral support in organizing this program in a successful manner. Thank you, sir. I would like to convey a special thanks to the resource person, my dear friend, Dr. K. Ramaswamy, sir, college librarian, MV Muthaya Government Arts College for Women, Tindikal, Tamil Nadu, for acceptance of our invitation to be a resource person for this FDP and delivered wonderful presentation in the topic important hallmarks of scientific and technical writing. He highlighted how to write quality research paper in hallmark publications. He explained A to Z procedure of writing research papers. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Next, I thank Dr. B.M. Ashwin for his valuable help to organize this program. I would like to thank all participants of our college and other colleges. Once again, I thank one and all for participating in this program. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, sir. And one more important information regarding your certificates to the participants. The link for attendance is posted in the chat box. Kindly fill it and submit. You are asked to do not resubmit the form. After submission, successful submission of your form, you can leave the meet. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Honorable sir, shall I take a leave? Thank you so much for the
Yes,
opportunity given.
thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful presentation, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sir,
Thank you,
principal,
thank you
sir.
so much, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Sir, anything?
Thank you.
Any comments
Thank you,
from
all of
you?
you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you. Particularly IQAC.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you,
Okay,
all
good luck.
participants. Thank you, sir. excuse me. Hello.
Sir.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Start.
Selva Ganapati sir. Selva Ganapati sir.
Ashwin. Selva Ganapati sir.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Good
Ashwin.
morning, sir. Sir, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Morning. Is it Ashwin?
I am R. Manian Raja.
Okay, sir.
Sir, where we have to fill that certificate and attendance, sir?
Sir, it is the form link is given in the chat.
A form I didn't get it, sir. That's why I'm asking.
Just see the chat section. You can find
It's available in the chat box.
Chat box.
Sir?
So in your screen, you can see a chat box button. Then press it, and you can find a form link.
Form.
Just click it and fill. That's
Where it
Hello,
is, sir?
sir.
Where it is, sir? Yes.
in the chat, ma'am.
What should we write in that feedback form as a contact number, conduct number? What is the conduct number?
Contact
Actually, there's
number.
contact number. It has been wrongly
Sorry,
printed. You please
sorry.
enter your number.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Ashwin, may I talk to Dr. Ashwin? Ashwin,
Yes, sir. You can.
Ashwin, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Ashwin, I have filled in the attendance form. So that's enough now.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for your
You will
meticulous
get
arrangement.
your certificate. You will get your certificate immediately.
You have done a great job.
Sir.
You and Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sir, I can't get that certificate, sir. That form, I can't get it, sir. Excuse me.
Yes, sir. I am trying.
Sorry, you please touch the top of your phone.
Top of
Sir, in
the.
your
Top of the
screen, you can see a chat symbol.
So when you touch, you can get the oval-like thing in the rightmost corner.
Okay, sir.
So that's a dialog box. When chat box, when you touch it, you can find there are so many contacts, and this
Okay.
link is. Hello.
Sir,
Yes, sir. Oval box.
Ashwin?
சார் சொல்லுங்க ஜெட் சார்.
Hello?
சார் சொல்லுங்க சார்.
Ashwin, I think one Professor Manihanda Raja,
Yes, yes,
he
yes.
asked a doubt regarding the filling of the form. Have you
Yes,
clarified
yes,
his doubt?
Yes, sir. I
Okay,
think
okay,
he
okay.
got-
Very good.
I think he got-
Okay.
Still I can't find out, sir. சார் இன்னும் ஃபைண்ட் அவுட் பண்ண முடியல. ஓவல் ஷேப்னா சார்
சார் இந்த ரைட் கார்னர்ல ஓவல் ஷேப்ல ஒன்னு இருக்கா? அந்த ரெண்டு மனுஷங்க ஃபிகர் மாதிரி போட்டு அதுக்கு அடுத்தது ஓவல் ஷேப்ல ஒன்னு இருக்கா சார் மேல? ரைட் சைடு. Hello. Hello, sir.
I think he is trying. What's his name?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. அவங்க ட்ரை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. சார்
Ashwin,
பண்ணிட்டு சார்.
shall I leave?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
இதுல கேளு. இந்த பக்கம் கோணு காணுது.
Sir,
Hello, sir. Sir.
sir, yes ma'am, yes ma'am.
Hello, sir.
Yes ma'am.
Hello, sir.
Ma'am, sorry.
Sir, form கிடைக்கல sir.
Link உங்களுக்கு வரலையா ma'am? Your name? உங்க பேர் என்ன ma'am?
Sugambika.
Name please.
Sajeev Kumar. Sir, Ayyappa College Library.
Sajeev Kumar. Okay ma'am. இப்ப பாருங்க ma'am, உங்க chat boxல ஒரு மெசேஜ் வந்துருக்கு. வந்துச்சா ma'am?
Status.
Chat box. Chat with வருதுன்னு bro. சார் chat with வருதுல்ல?
அதை செலக்ட் பண்ணுங்க சார்.
அதுல எங்க போணும்?
லிங்க் வருதா? அதுல ஒரு லிங்க் இருக்கும் பாருங்க. https forms
அதுல?
GLG ன்னு சொல்லி அதை கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க, டைரக்டா உங்களுக்கு லிங்க் ஓபன் ஆகும்.
எதுல சார்? எதுல chat with everyone வருது, ஆர்கனைசர்ஸ் சொல்லி வருது, அப்படி எல்லா பேரும் வருது.
அதுக்கு மேல
வேற என்ன இருக்குதுல?
லிங்க் டிஸ்ப்ளே ஆகலையா சார்?
இல்லையே, லிங்க் வரலையே. லிங்க் வரலையே. முதல்ல வர்றது chat with everyone வருது, ஆர்கனைசர்ஸ் சொல்லி வருது, then IQAC and library PKC, அப்புறம் வந்துட்டு all the participants வருது.
உங்களுக்கு அதுல வேற எதுவுமே மெசேஜ் எதுவுமே தெரியலையா சார்?
ஒண்ணும் இல்ல, ஃபர்ஸ்ட்ல வர்றது chat with வருது, chat பாக்ஸ் கிளிக் பண்ண உடனே chat with வருது, அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்துட்டு பார்ட்டிசிபேட்.
கீழே மேல வேற மெசேஜஸ் எதுவுமே டிஸ்ப்ளே ஆகலையா சார்?
கீழே 1 மினிட், கீழே இல்ல ஒண்ணுமே டிஸ்பிளே ஆகல சார். ஒன்லி பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட் பேரு தான் வந்துட்டு இருக்கு. கீழே லாஸ்ட்ல வந்துட்டு சுதா அபிராமின்னு வருது, அப்புறம் வந்துட்டு பேரெல்லாம் வந்துட்டு இருக்கு, அவ்வளவுதான். வேற லிங்க் ஒண்ணுமே வரல இதுல.
அப்படிங்களா சார்? உங்க நேம் சஞ்சீவ் குமாரா சார்?
இல்ல, இது ஆக்சுவலி என்னோட மிஸ்ஸஸ் மொபைல் என்னது வி சஜீவ் குமார் மொபைல் என்னோட பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட்.
சார் அந்த நேம்க்கு தான் நாங்க மெசேஜ் பண்ணிருக்கோம், அதனாலதான் சொல்றேன்.
ஆமா, இதுல வரலையா சார்? மெசேஜ் வந்துட்டு என்னோட மிஸ்ஸஸ் தான் பார்ட்டிசிபேட் பண்ணாங்க, லைப்ரரியன் ஷியாப்பா காலேஜ் உமன். இதுல வந்துட்டு ஆனா லிங்க் ஒன்றும் வரல, லிங்க் டிஸ்பிளேல வரவே இல்லை.
ஓகே சார், அப்போ நீங்க உங்க மெயில் ஐடி மட்டும் எனக்கு அதுல ரிப்ளை பண்ண முடியுமா? chat நீங்க கொடுத்தீங்களா everyone, அதுல IQAC ன்னு ஒரு ஆப்ஷன் இருக்குல்ல சார், chat with IQAC ன்னு?
ஆமா, chat with everyone, அதாவது IQAC.
அதுக்கு அடுத்து IQAC ன்னு இருக்குல்ல சார், அதுல கொடுத்து உங்க மெயில் ஐடி மட்டும் எனக்கு ரிப்ளை பண்ணுங்க.
IQAC சார் 1 மினிட், IQAC க்கு உள்ள லிங்க் இருக்கு, ஒரு லிங்க் HCA ஃபார்ம்ஸ் அதுல இருக்கு, லிங்க் இருக்கு.
திரும்ப அனுப்பிட்டே இருக்கோம், ட்ரை பண்ணுங்க சார். அந்த லிங்க் தான்
அதுக்கு உள்ளே லிங்க் இருக்கா? 1 மினிட். ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே, 1 மினிட். ஓகே, இங்க ஓபன் பண்ணா நான் பண்ணிடுறேன்.
ஓகே தானே சார்? ட்ரை பண்ணுங்க சார்.
ஆமா, இப்போ ஓபன் ஆகுது சார். ஓபன் ஆகல, நெட்வொர்க் கொஞ்சம் ஸ்லோவா இருக்கு.
ஓகே சார், ஓகே சார், ட்ரை
பாத்துக்கிறேன்.
பண்ணுங்க.
ஓகே, தேங்க் யூ. ஆமா, வந்துட்டு சார் அட்டெண்டன்ஸ் ஃபார்ம். ஓகே.
കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ടോ ഒരുപാട് പേര്? ഒരേ പേരിൽ 2 പേര് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്.
Designation librarian.
कहाँ एक इंटरव्यू देखना बेटियां